gospel lesson today gives us, from the lips of Jesus, Christian fundamentals. Christianity 101. It does. It gives us the basics. It also contains a personal and organizational indictment. An indictment to each one of us and an indictment to churches and organizations. Because it calls us to ask ourselves and to assess within ourselves. I can't look at you, I can't look at anybody else but myself. I have to ask myself the question, what are my core values? What do I instinctively do in any given situation and circumstance? What is my knee-jerk response? What kinds of behaviors and patterns and actions do I take as I walk each day and as I live my life and as I interact with people all around me? It's an indictment because it's a challenge, and it's a challenge to the church, and it's a challenge to us as individuals, because we have the option and the prerogative, as we talked about free will last week, remember? One of the things that is your and my challenge as human beings is we have free will. We can't blame anybody about the choices we make. We make choices, and we then have to deal with the consequences of those choices that we make. Over time, by being a part of a faith community, by being a part of where we can study the Bible and we can dialogue with one another as we struggle through this striving to be better, we learn and discover the patterns that we may be exhibiting. And then we can go to God in prayer and we can ask the Holy Spirit to come into our lives to help us redirect our patterns. See, because it's all about over time. You know, with every day, if I recognize that I'm exhibiting a pattern of selfishness or a pattern of egotism, or a pattern of, I need attention, look at me. If I'm doing those things, I'm using those just as examples, those patterns can be redirected. I know David always says, you can't change the stripes on a tire. I know he says that all the time. But I believe that the Spirit has the potential and the power and the capacity to help us dig new grooves for ourselves.
Thank God.
Thank God. We can. God can. I may not be able to do it on my own because I have the tendency to just stay in the same groove. That's part of my nature. I mean, I make a bad choice, and then I make that same bad choice, and then I keep making the same bad choice. And then I have to then suffer the consequences of that. But if I say, God help me make a different choice, a better choice, God helps us. That is part of our faith. That is our hope. And that is our belief that God helps us dig new grooves, better patterns, better opportunities to practice better ways of living. All right, so now we have this lesson with Jesus saying, when the Son of Man comes, he's going to separate the sheep and the goats. Right? Now, it has nothing, he said he's going to separate the nations as a shepherd separates the sheep and the goats. Okay? I was hungry and you fed me. I was naked and you clothed me. I was in prison and you visited. And, you know, these. And the part that I'm asking us to look at in this passage is their cluelessness. That's the part I need us to embrace and look at. Both the sheep and the goats are clueless. They had no idea. What you talking about, man? When did I do that? Because what is at the heart of this is, what do I do naturally, day in and day out? Do I anticipate, no, not even anticipate, do I perceive God in everyone and everything around me and interact with it as if it's God? Do I? Jesus, if I'd known it was you, I would have been. God, if I'd known it was you, I would have done it. He's like, you're so clueless. You're not getting it. The point is, I'm everywhere. I'm in everything. I'm all around you all the time. And if you don't see me, if you don't embrace me, if you don't acknowledge me, you've made a choice. You've established patterns. You've gone into a sequences of decision making that is self-centered. It's all about you and not about others and God. It's not. So, my brothers and sisters, it's really, really, and not only a personal indictment, but it's an indictment on many of our organizations and organizational structures. What do we do? How do we set our own priorities? How do I look in the mirror and take the time and do the work of self-assessment? We're so busy every day. All of us, we get so busy being busy that we don't stop and assess, what are my patterns? And sometimes it takes people around us to help us. That's part of the responsibility of the church and the community organizations that we're a part of. We can help one another. If I, like, say, I'll use my example, I used it last week and I'll use it again. Meet my ego. Sure, okay. If I'm in diva land all the time, turning off everybody around me, right? Come on. Unless somebody says, look, I love you, but you got to work on the humble gene. Exactly. If somebody is needing, one of the classic things, this happened at another church that we were in. There was a deacon at the church. I loved the guy. He really was sincere, but he was so messed up. I mean, he would do some really wonderful good work in the church and wonderful good work in the community. He was really a helping person. But at Wednesday night prayer meeting, he would get up and tell about it.
Oh, I know.
This week, God blessed me to help 10 people. Dude, you're getting your reward now. Wait, don't do that, man. You're blowing your own horn. You're messing yourself up. So do your works and let other people talk about it. You're not the one who's supposed to be talking about it. That's messed up, right? Yes. And what it is, it's a big turnoff. When somebody they tell you what good things they do to all the wonderful people around you. Oh, that's such a turnoff, right? Mm-hmm. But if I'm exhibiting that pattern, I can be better. Don't judge me because I'm exhibiting a bad pattern now. Help me be better. That's why when Jesus says, when you reach out to the least of these, my brothers and sisters, there's two ways that the commentators look at this. We could look at it in a universal sense, and it could be all the poor and needy everywhere that we should be compassionate about and caring and helping. But it could be also perceived and interpreted as an internal thing. When I'm messed up and acting stupid, I'm needy. Huh? If you and I are doing something and we're exhibiting unhealthy patterns, and I'm not being what God would want me to be, aren't I a needy one? And wouldn't I hope that my sisters and brothers would pull me aside in a non-embarrassing kind of, non-crass, tacky way? Because you don't want to be fronted out in front of everybody either. Because we wouldn't do. Hopefully, we wouldn't do that to one another. I hope not. Right? You out of love, we out of love. Yeah, you would do it tactfully and respectfully, because it's all about all of us being better. And so we all are in that needy place sometime. It's not just the homeless person or the person in the prison or that person at the end of the bread line. It's all of us get in those places where we've fallen short of the glory of God and we're not doing and being all we ought to be. So we're all the needy ones, all of us. Jesus' ministry was marked by compassion. Compassion. That's the key. Say it with me. Compassion.
Compassion.
Compassion compels and leads someone to acts of mercy. And that is what is reflected consistently in all of the Gospels as Jesus lived out his ministry. Compassion was in his heart. He was his nature as the manifestation of God with us was intentional, complete, instinctive, genetic compassion. And that's the call to each of us. And that becomes the bar, the standard for each of us. We're not being asked to be perfect like Jesus. We are called to be compassionate like Jesus. Jesus over and over said, I did not come to be served, but to serve. Diakonos is the Greek word that is being used. The word that becomes the word deacon later on in the book of Acts, and we use it now, to serve. Not for glory, not for fame, not for accolades, not for pats on the back. Oh, how wonderful he is, or how glorious she is. No, but because it's the right thing to do, and shut up about it. Just do it. Care about people. Care. Compassion. Because back to being needy. I like using myself in these things. I'm so needy. When I'm needy, and I need help from my sisters and brothers to address my neediness, I'm asking to receive compassion, so that in that place of dignity and respect, dialogue can happen. Honest, frank dialogue. Private dialogue can happen, where we can help one another and pray with one another to be better. To be better. Now, if I've already decided that I'm a goat and ain't no way I'm going to change, man, that's just the way I am. Because there's a lot of us that are in that place. Let me go there. I'm going right there, yeah. There's some of us that get into that place of, they just got to just accept me the way I am. This is me. Get the little head wagging there.
Don't forget the finger.
I mean,
Yeah.
then judgment is already declared. Jesus has said, I need my people to be a compassionate people. And you're saying, and if you've already decided in your head and in your heart and in your mind that you just the way you are and ain't nothing wrong, you know, then we've already judged ourselves. We've already put ourselves in the goat category. Right? We put ourselves there. Nobody, Jesus didn't have to do it. We jumped over there. Oh, I'm in the goat section. So I have no intention of changing. It's the way surrendering our hearts to the Holy Spirit, to ask God and our sisters and brothers around us to move toward more consistent patterns of behavior that exhibit perpetual compassion. Are we the person at work that everybody avoids? Are we the co-worker that folk come to? Are we the person that folk are glad to see coming? Oops. Or we see them come and go like, oh God, here they come again. They're going to tell me about everything going on. Y'all, how can I, and do I want to be better? Do I want to be better? Jesus said to the man at the pool of Bethesda, do you want to be whole? There's some folk that just like being sick. Want to stay there in sick land. Poor me. But this text, this good news, this proclamation of gospel is giving us the option to choose patterns of compassion. So that when we go throughout our day from a caring perspective, won't I be less likely to bite at someone? Right?
Yeah.
Yes. I'll be less likely. I might have bited somebody if I'm not feeling good, and sometimes we have bad days, we do. But the pattern over time will be there'll be fewer bitings, and progressively more and more. How are you doing? I may be in pain or sick, but my concern and my words and my actions are about what's happening with you. Are you going to be all right? What can I do? And then I got to make sure I shut up about it. Oh, I was so glad the other day I helped you Nina out. Christian fundamentals. It's basic. Christianity 101. Notice nowhere in here did it say, did the gospel lesson say anything about salvation based on embracing, you got to do this. It's about who and what you are. And what you are at your core. Because God knows your heart. God knows our hearts. And so the call is for us to ask the Spirit to get our hearts in the right place. As a church, as individuals, as organizations, we can do it. Would you pray with me?